Good morning, students. Welcome to our online class. This is your second period and the subject is economics. Students, today through this recorded video, I am going to cover few topics from the chapter Poverty, which is one of the chapter in Unit 2 from the book Indian Economic Development. So from Indian Economic Development, from that book, Unit 2, the name of Unit 2 is Challenges Facing Indian Economy. From that book, the first chapter, that is Poverty, I will cover few topics. Students, in yesterday's live session, we stopped at the topic that is measures to remove poverty. What are the measures through which we can remove poverty in our country India? What are the suitable measures? So students, yesterday I told you there are four measures, or I can say there are four categories, or I can say we have divided the measures to remove poverty into four categories. So measures to remove poverty in India are placed in four categories. As under number 1, combating poverty through GDP growth rate. We can fight against poverty. We can fight against poverty through GDP growth. That means by increasing gross domestic product, by increasing GDP growth rate, we can combat against the poverty in our country India. That is the first category. Now the second category is combating poverty, fighting poverty by improving the distribution of income. Combating poverty, fighting against poverty by improving the distribution of income. That means how we can fight against poverty through the distribution of income? Through fiscal and legislative measures. Through fiscal and legislative measures, FISCAL, through fiscal and legislative measures, we can fight against poverty. Okay, that is distribution of income. The third important measure is, the third category measure is, that is combating poverty, fighting against poverty through population control. By controlling population, we can also fight against, we can reduce poverty in our country India. Now, other measures. The fourth one is other measures. Here, other measures means what? Enhancing the quality of life of the people, or enhancing the quality of the life of the poor people. By enhancing the quality of life, by improving the quality of life of the poor people, to some extent we can control the poverty in our country India. So these are the four measures: combating against poverty by improving GDP growth rate, combating poverty by the distribution of income through fiscal and legislative measures, third one, combating poverty by controlling population, and fourth one, enhancing the quality of life of the poor. Through that also we can reduce poverty level or the extent of poverty in our country India. Now students, here combating poverty through improvement in GDP growth rate. How? See, GDP growth rate is the ultimate solution. It is the ultimate solution in any country. GDP growth rate is the ultimate solution to the problem of removal of poverty. When the pace of GDP growth rate is accelerated, when the speed of the growth rate of GDP is increased, new opportunities of employment are generated. Whenever the GDP growth rate is accelerated, improved, the speed is increased, no doubt we can develop employment opportunities, we can generate or create employment opportunities, and when we generate employment opportunities, naturally more people will get the employment jobs. When they'll get jobs, definitely they'll be paid wages or salaries. In this way we can reduce poverty. Greater the employment, more inclusive would be the growth process. I repeat, greater the employment, more inclusive would be the growth process, implying lesser poverty. Similarly, combating poverty by the distribution of income. We all know that in India there are lot of income inequalities are there. That means the people throughout India are not receiving equal amount of incomes. The income levels are different from one family to other family. Okay, there are a lot of differences, a lot of causes are there for the income inequalities. One is the difference in education levels. Second one, difference in the skill and training. Due to difference in education levels, the person who is educated more will get higher good post, higher job, better post where you'll get more salary, and the person who is less educated will get less job, smaller job where you'll get less salary. So that's one of the cause. The second is what, that inheritance of poverty by the inheritance of property by the family members, parents. There's bequeathing. Bequeathing the property from the parents through law of inheritance. Receiving the property from our parents through that law of inheritance is also one of the reason for what, income and wealth inequalities. Third one, the difference in skill and the difference in skills and training. Skilled laborers are always paid more than the unskilled labor, that we know. So that's also one of the reasons for our income inequalities. Similarly, since earning capabilities varies from person to person, some people can work for more hours of work, some people can work for more hours, some cannot. So that is, earning capabilities varies from person to person. So there are several causes for what, income inequalities and wealth in our country India. Students, I said 4. Difference in education levels, difference in skills and training levels. Third one, bequeathing wealth and property from the parents through law of inheritance. Fourth one, since earning capabilities varies from person to person. I said 4. Do you know out of these 4, which is the major cause for income inequalities and wealth in India? Among the 4 causes, which is the major cause for income inequalities and wealth inequalities in our country India? The answer is, that is bequeathing wealth and property from the parents. That will become the major one. Because for example, A and B, 2 people are there. The boy A, he inherited from his father 20 crores worth property. B, another person, a boy who has not earned any property. So that will make a lot of difference. Because B person, the parent is not having any property, has not left any property to his child. So he has not received anything. Whereas the boy A received 20 crore or 10 crore property from his father. So that makes a lot of difference. Not the earning capabilities. For example, your father is collector. Some ex-father is what? An engineer. So the difference between collector and engineer, the salary will be, difference will be there, but not that much major. Okay, fine. Now combating poverty by improving distribution income through fiscal legislative measures. You know, in our country India, tax policy was laid down. Why this tax policy was laid down? In order to collect some revenue to the government. And the tax policy we have made in such a manner that through this tax policy we can control to some extent the income inequalities or wealth inequalities in our country India. That's why wealth tax, property tax, income tax, professional tax, so many taxes we have implemented so that to reduce income inequalities and wealth inequalities in our country India. But still we have not reached the goal. Still there is people are paying tax. So here it was said through fiscal measures and through the government legislative measures we can control what, the income inequalities and wealth inequalities. Fiscal measures, for example, the government places greater reliance on the progressive tax structure. We adopted progressive tax structure in India. It implies higher tax is on the rich people. Rich people have to pay more tax and the poor people have to pay less tax or they have been exempted. So through progressive taxation, to some extent we are controlling the what, income inequalities and wealth inequalities in our country India. Similarly, tax receipts of the government are used to subsidize purchases by poor section of society. Some subsidies are given to the poor section of the people. Some subsidies are given to the poor section of people. See, tax receipts of the government are used to subsidize purchases by poor section of the society. That is another fiscal policy through which we can reduce income inequalities or distribution income inequalities. Third one, subsidies offered on the necessities of life, including food, education, and housing. So on all these essential things, subsidies are given. Okay, next one. Capital grants. capital grants are offered to the poor for construction of their houses, besides grants for self-employment. So these are some of the encouragement, some of the fiscal measures taken up by the government in order to reduce the income and wealth inequalities in India. Similarly, legislative measures. What are the things that comes under legislative measures? For example, legislative measures refers to Minimum Wage Act. Here, Minimum Wage Act, one act was passed. Similarly, making it mandatory for employees to offer the stipulated minimum wage to the employees. I mean, wherever any person, wherever he works, he should be given minimum wage. He should not be paid less than that one. That is called legislative measure by the government. Similarly, here legislative measures also include such policies of price floor for the purchase of farm outputs. I mean, legislative measures also include such policies as of price floor for the purchase of farm outputs. This is one of the government legislative measure. This refers to the stipulated minimum price. This refers to what? The stipulated minimum price that must be offered to farmers for the purchase of their output. Similarly, laws like right to education, laws such as right to education is yet another example for legislative measure to enhance the quality of life of the poor or poorer segments of the society. Now come simply next one, combating poverty by controlling population. Yes, if you keep population in limited, definitely the sources which are there is available to all the people. So there is no scope of poverty or poorness. So we should control population. How we can control population? So we should encourage small family norm, small family concept, one child or none. We should not keep big families. Okay, if the population is in control, naturally our per capita income also will be more. When the per capita income is more, I mean per individual income is more, naturally the standard of living will be more. So it is through controlling population we can increase our per capita income. By controlling population, we can make available the resources to all the people. When the resources are available, then people can easily access them. Similarly, if we control population, then the less people are there and the resources will be available. So if all the people are able to access the resources, then the quality of life will be improved, through which we can elevate poverty. Similarly, here last one, by enhancing the quality of life, some other measures that are which helps in enhancing the quality of life. By enhancing the quality of life also we can control the poverty. How? See, number one, development of agriculture. First thing, the first point which comes under other measures, that is enhancing quality of life of the poor. How we can enhance, how we can improve the quality of life of the poor? The first one, development of agriculture. Development of agriculture. See, Dr. Minhas is of the opinion that to remove poverty, he said that to remove poverty, to eliminate poverty, special efforts should be made to develop agriculture. I mean, some special effort has to be made to develop agriculture. Then only we can remove poverty. According to Dr. Minhas, he said that. Dr. means here PhD. Now, he recommended that agriculture should be mechanized and modernized. Agriculture should be mechanized and modernized. First one. Better seeds, means of irrigation, chemical and composite fertilizer should be used. Small farmers should be given financial assistance. Landless farmers should be given land. I repeat, with the development of agriculture also we can eliminate poverty. We can elevate poverty. We can eradicate poverty. How? First one, agriculture should be mechanized and modernized. Better seeds, better irrigation facilities, chemical and composite fertilizers should be utilized. Small farmers should be given financial assistance by the banks, and landless farmers should be given land. Through this we can elevate poverty. Now, stability in the price level. By controlling the price of the essential items, stability, making the price fixed. So stability in the price level. So price stability is essential prerequisite for elevation of poverty in any country. If we control the price of the goods and services, if we stabilize the price of goods and services, essential price of goods and services, then everybody can easily access those goods and services. So what is it here? Price stability is an essential prerequisite of poverty elevation. If prices continue to rise, If prices continue to rise, the standard of living of the poor will continue to deteriorate. If the price of the goods will increase, then the standard of living of the poor will be deteriorated. That's why the prices should be stabilized, controlled. Then only ordinary people, poor people can easily access the goods and services. So there will is no then there will not be any scope about poverty. Next one, eradication of unemployment. I mean, some employment generation measures to be implemented. We have to eradicate unemployment. We have to eradicate unemployment. How we can eradicate unemployment? By providing employment opportunities. By providing employment opportunities, we can eradicate unemployment. See what is said here. Special measures should be taken to eradicate unemployment, underemployment, and disguised unemployment. So, underemployment, disguised unemployment, and ordinary unemployment. These unemployment should be removed through special measures by generating employment opportunities. Okay, in this context, it may be noted that opportunities of employment in rural areas must be fully explored. I mean, how we can generate employment in the rural areas? Nowadays, minimum works program or 100 days work program, Narega, these are there. So through this we can provide employment opportunities to the rural population in India. Similarly, cottage industries and construction activities should be encouraged in rural areas. Next one, vocationalization. I mean, this is a vocationalization means what? Along with studies, some training should be given in a particular trade. Training should be given in a particular trade. That is called, see, vocationalization of education should be given high priority. I mean, along with studies, students should be taught one trade: carpenter, blacksmith, goldsmith, ironsmith, okay, plumber, electrician, motor mechanic. These are some of the trades should be taught to the children along with education, so that they can, after education, they can set up their own business, they can do services. So there is no question unemployment after that one. Next one, labor intensive technique of production. So we should adopt labor intensive technique of production. For example, Dr. Gurnar Myrdal is of opinion that India should adopt labor intensive technique because labors are easily available. In India, labors are cheaply available. So when labor is cheaply available, we should use labor intensive production techniques. Its adoption will raise the level of employment. When you adopt labor intensive techniques of production, definitely it will raise employment opportunities in India. So labor intensive techniques should be adopted in India. Next one, provision of minimum needs to the poor. I mean, the government should adopt some measures, some schemes, some welfare schemes. Through that, we should provide minimum needs to the poor people, like a PDS, I mean, public distribution system, through which we are providing rice, wheat, gram, jaggery, all this we are providing. See, government should take appropriate measures to meet minimum needs of the poor, such as supplying drinking water, provision of primary health centers, primary education, etc. Public sector should allocate more and more funds for this purpose. I mean, government should allocate more and more funds for this purpose. Next one, special focus should be given on backward areas. The government should give more focus on backward areas. Okay, government should offer special concessions. I mean, some special offers and concessions should be given to the backward areas, extremely backward areas. For example, like Odisha, Nagaland, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar. These are the backward states. So the government should focus more on these areas. So special concessions and facilities should be given to the people here to encourage the people to eradicate and to encourage private investment, so that to some extent with the introduction of private investment, the employment opportunities will be increased and poverty will be reduced. Next one, opportunities for self-employment. I mean, the government should provide loans at a low rate of interest to the people. So those people who are not getting employment, not getting jobs, government jobs or private jobs, so they should set up their own business. And to set up business, we need money. So the money should be given through banks in the form of loans at a low rate of interest. Or I can say some subsidies should be given if they set up the industries in rural areas, like that. So we should encourage the opportunities of self-employment to the people, instead of depending upon the jobs. Okay. Through that also we can reduce or eradicate poverty. Now, next one, effective public distribution system. Just what I told you, PDS system, public distribution system, PDS system. That is you are calling in Hindi Uchit Mooli ki Dukaan. That means in this shop, fair price shop in English we can say. Here the rice, wheat, kerosene, tamarind, jaggery, gram, these are the things which are provided at a very less price than the market, so that people can purchase them and they can have their livelihood at very less price. So the PDS system should be work effectively. So if the PDS system will work effectively, then we can control poverty. Poor people can get the minimum requirements whatever needed for the daily life. Okay, so the effective PDS system should be started. So these are some of the measures. Next one, another important topic. I'm moving to the another important topic. What are the measures adopted by the government to remove poverty? Now, government measures. I will tell only government measures. What are the government measures? So, what are the measures that are taken by the government in order to eradicate poverty, or we can say eradicate unemployment? Both. Number one. Or you can say poverty elevation programs. The following are the measures which are taken up by the government. The following are the measures which are taken up by the government in order to eradicate poverty, to eradicate an unemployment, and also to eradicate poverty and unemployment, I can say. Now, first one. The following are the measures, or the following are the principal measures that are adopted by the government of India in order to eradicate poverty, or in order to eradicate unemployment in India, or you can say poverty eradicating programs. Number one, Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana, SGSY. Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana. Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana, SGSY. Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana. Through this, we can eradicate poverty or unemployment. So, to remove poverty from the rural areas, I mean, this program is purely meant for what? Rural areas. So, to eradicate poverty in the rural areas, Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana was launched in all the villages of India in April 1999. 1999. In April 1999, certain measures are launched in all the villages of India. That is called Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana in order to eradicate poverty. Actually, this program replaced earlier programs. Earlier there were two programs over there. That is called IRDP and TRYSEM. TRYSEM. I mean, training of rural youth for self-employment. TRYSEM full form. Training for rural youth for self-employment. TRYSEM. Earlier there were TRYSEM and IRDP, Integrated Rural Development Program. And TRYSEM. These are the two programs which are there, which are working in the rural areas to eradicate poverty and to generate employment. So these two programs are removed, and in that place we developed what? Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana. Okay. So it replaced the earlier programs, that is Integrated Rural Development Program and also TRYSEM, that is Training for Rural Youth for Self-Employment. Next one, similarly, I can say National Rural Livelihood Mission, NRLM. National Rural Livelihood Mission. So this scheme is also known as what? Ajivika. This scheme is also known as Ajivika. Yes, in the first phase, this scheme was implemented in 150 districts. This Ajivika or National Rural Livelihood Mission, this Ajivika scheme was initially started in 150 districts in India in the year 2012 and 13. The scheme was expanded to another 150 districts in 2014-15. That means again 150 districts more. Now again by the end of 2016-17, this scheme was extended to the whole country. I mean, step by step this program was implemented. NRLM is expected to provide self-employment to 90 lakh people. 90 lakh people are getting self-employment through NRLM, National Rural Livelihood Mission or Ajivika. Okay, the program is now renamed as Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana. So DAS program was renamed. DAS program was renamed as what? Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana. So Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana This was earlier called what? Ajivika. So today we can call this program is now renamed as what? Deen Dayal Antyodaya. I can say Antyodaya Yojana. Next one. Now, Sampurna Gram Swarajgar Yojana, SGRY. Sampurna Gram Swarajgar Yojana. Or I can say Sampurna Gramin Swarajgar Yojana. Earlier I told you what? That is Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarajgar Yojana, SGSY. Now this is Sampurna Gramin Rojgar Yojana. What I repeat? Sampurna Gramin Rojgar Yojana, SGRY. So Sampurna Gramin Rojgar Yojana was launched in September 1st, 2001. Jawhar Gram Samriddhi Yojana and Employment Assurance Scheme were integrated into single Yojana. I mean, two programs were there earlier. That is Jawhar Gram Samriddhi Yojana, JGSY. Jawhar Gram Samriddhi Yojana plus Employment Assurance Scheme. These two are mixed together, they are integrated into one and turn into one Sampurna Gramin Rojgar Yojana, SGRY. The main object of this Yojana is to provide employment opportunity to the surplus workers in the rural areas, to provide employment opportunity to the surplus workers, to focus on the development of regional economic and social conditions, to focus on the development of infrastructure. These are the main things. Similarly, Pradhan Mantri Gramodaya Yojana, I mean PGY, Pradhan Mantri Gramodaya Yojana. This is another Yojana, another scheme through which we can eradicate poverty. Okay, this was launched in 2001. Pradhan Mantri Gramodaya Yojana was started in 2001. It aims at improving the standard of living of the rural people by developing 5 important areas like health, primary education, drinking water, housing and roads. So when you will start all these things, naturally there will be generation of employment opportunities. Okay, now Jay Prakash Rojgar Guarantee Yojana, JPRGY. Jay Prakash Rojgar Guarantee Yojana, this is another one. Similarly, Swarna Jayanti, what? Sahari Rojgar Yojana, Swarna Jayanti, SGSRY. Swarna Jayanti Sahari Rojgar Yojana, particularly meant for what? Urban areas. It was started in 1991, December 1st, 1997. December 1st, 1997, like this. Like this, Prime Minister Rojgar Yojana, PMRY. This Prime Minister Rojgar Yojana was also started in order to provide what? 1 lakh for opening his own or her own enterprise and 2 lakhs for other activities. I repeat, Prime Minister Rojgar Yojana. The scheme is for providing employment to educated and unemployed. Those are educated but still they are unemployed. So such people should be encouraged to start the self-employment. That's why the government decided to provide some financial assistance through banks, either 1 lakh or 2 lakhs. 1 lakh for what? For opening own enterprise and 2 lakhs for what? Other activities. Now similarly, development of small and cottage industries. In the development of small and cottage industries also, we can reduce poverty and we can provide employment and we can reduce unemployment. Similarly, minimum needs program. This minimum needs program also one of the important program to reduce poverty in our country, India. Through minimum needs program, we are providing what? Rural health facilities, rural water supply, rural roads, rural electrification, rural housing, and ecological improvement of urban slums. This is expected to improve the quality of life of the poorer sections of the people. Similarly, 20 points program. This 20 points program was started by Srimati Indira Gandhi. I repeat, this 20 points program. A new 20 points program was launched in 14th January 1982. See, 1982. With a view to eradicate poverty. This 20 points program was launched in 14th January 1982 with an intention to reduce poverty in India. And the following are the 20 points. Number 1, increase in irrigation capacity, increase in production of pulses and oil seeds, extension of integrated rural development program and national rural employment program, fixation of ceiling of land holdings, minimum wages to agriculture workers, rehabilitation of bonded labor, expansion of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe programs, drinking water in villages, provision of houses in rural areas, improvement of slum areas, development of power capacity, development of forest and gobar gas, family planning, setting up of primary health centers, welfare program for women and children, Primary education for children between the age of 6 to 14 years. Expansion of public distribution system or fair price shops, that is your PD system. Simple industrial policy, checking of generation of black money, efficient management of public sector health industrial units. So these all 20 points program started in 14 January 1982 by Srimati Indira Gandhi. The main aim is to elevate poverty in our country India. Similarly, Mahatma Gandhi Rural Employment Guarantee Act, that is MGNREGA, MGNREGA. What? Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, Mahatma Gandhi MG National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, MGNREGA, MGNREGA. So under this act, all who are willing to undertake unskilled work, manual work, all those who are ready to undertake unskilled manual labor work at a minimum wage which are offered by the government, employment for minimum a period of 100 years. Those seeking employment are to report in the rural areas where the employment program is being launched. This program is being launched in India. Now it is under progress, under implementation. This program is becoming extremely popular in the rural areas. Okay. According to one estimate, the total number of individuals who have benefited from this program has risen to 6.22 crore in 2014-15 to 7.77 crore in 2018-19. Next one, Micro Units Development Finance Agency Bank. Micro Units Development Finance Agency Bank, I mean Mudra Bank. So through Mudra Bank, which was started in April 2015, through this also we can try to elevate poverty and reducing unemployment. Now, last topic, that is critical assessment of poverty elevation program. That means number of poverty elevation programs were started in our country India by the government, by the NGOs, everybody. So now let us see whether this poverty elevation programs really reduced the poverty in India, really reduced the unemployment condition in India or not, or whether the schemes are properly implemented, or whether there is any drawback is there. So the critical assessment of poverty elevation programs in India, let us see whether they are really brought any changes in reduction of poverty, in elevating poverty, or they are mere on pen and paper. Let us see. Studies conducted to elevate the performance of PAP, I mean poverty elevation programs, PAP, poverty elevation programs, suggest that there have been some noticeable changes over time. Yes, through all those poverty eradicating programs or poverty elevation programs, no doubt, rural poverty was reduced, urban poverty was reduced, overall poverty was reduced when compared with the previous years. But the reduction of poverty is more in urban areas and less in rural areas. That's why poverty is found still more in rural areas. Now, number one, the percentage of population below poverty line has declined. The percentage of people below poverty line has been declined. 46% it was 46% in 1973-74, which reduced to 21.9% in 2011 and 12. So the percentage of people below PPL has been reduced. Similarly, wage rate has tended to rise over time. The wage rate, the labor wage rate has increased. When the labor wage rate is increased, naturally the poverty will be reduced. Similarly, yet PAP have failed. Only these two changes are there. But yet poverty elevation programs have failed to deliver the desired results. I mean, what we expected, that desired results we have not reached. The main reasons for not achieving the desired results through poverty elevation programs are as follows. Number one, the administration and the concerned staff were inefficient. The administration and the concerned staff were inefficient and could not work effectively because of complex procedures involved. Also, there was no one to monitor the following up action. That's why schemes are there. Very good schemes are there. But administration is not correct. Efficient workers are not there. Efficient administrators are not there. Efficient staff is not there. And there is no proper monitoring is there. No for proper backup is there. That's why the schemes are failed over time. Next one. Those in charge of the programs favored the educated, rich and resourceful persons against the poor. Actually, the poverty elevation programs PAPs are meant for poor people, but these programs are generally utilized by or given to rich people, educated people, and resourceful persons, not the poor. That's why the poverty was not been eradicated. Next, remote areas and poor household located in the interiors of the villages were neglected. The people who are living in remote areas, forest areas, interior of the villages, they are been neglected through these programs. Okay, next one. Institutions that were needed to provide facilities like credit, marketing, etc., were not supportive. I mean, banks were not supportive. Credit facilities providing institutions are not sufficient in rural areas till date. Next one. Definition of poor was not clear to many. The definition of poor was not clear to many. Who are BPL? It was not clear. Who are APL? It was not clear. Many schemes are enjoyed by the APL people instead of BPL people. So the concept poor was not clear to many. As a result, many non-poor took advantage of these programs. Similarly, the poverty alleviation programs were largely largely government-sponsored programs and lacked participation of the people. Since these programs are mainly controlled by the government, so the people's involvement was very less. Hence, there was no success. Okay, so many like this, so many points are there. One more, I'm telling. This the power groups in the villages, the people who are powerful in the villages started exercising control over delivery of mechanism of poverty elevation programs. Some poor people, influential people, they had control over the poverty elevation programs, and the benefit was shared by them, took by them, but not the other people. Okay. As a result, there was a large-scale leakage of the delivery packages, and the poor received only a part of the aid which is supported by the government. So in this way, though many programs are there in coming to implementation part, it was not correct. It was failed, miserably failed. Hence, till date, poverty is still persistent in our Indian society and is more in rural areas. So, being an educated people, we should try to implement these programs sincerely, properly. Proper monitoring should be there. Then we can eradicate poverty so that our country should not come under what? Less developed countries or developing countries. Okay, fine. So this is the end of the topic, students, and this is the end of this chapter also. So in the next period, whenever the period will be there, we'll move to the next chapter of Unit 2. The next chapter of Unit 2, that is, what is the next chapter? That is, I'll tell you, that is Human Capital Formation in India. Human Capital Formation in India. How we can make our human capital, or how we can make human as a capital. How we can view human as a capital. How we can make human as capital? How? By educating, by providing proper health facilities, we can make human beings as capital so that they can help in their future. Thank you, friends. So this is the end of the chapter. Thank you. Okay. Give your attendance in my personal window after watching this video. Please. Thank you.